Caddis Maximus here. I have what may very well be Harbor Freight's brightest stick or beam flashlight that they've ever had. 1500 lumens. I'm sure glad I actually went outside and tested this before I got into the table portion of this review, because I do believe it's putting out the lumens. It's just unfortunate that they chose a zoom style flashlight to put in their brightest bulb. This is actually an ATAC flashlight. It's a Wilmar Performance Tool brand, and we can see that here, although they do have a or excuse me, I should say that this is the 1000 lumen version, where the Quantum is the 1500 lumen version. But these are ATAK flashlights. What's really made it obvious is the battery carriages, and that's probably the biggest criticism I have of this flashlight, is the battery carriage. It should have been just a 3C cell flashlight and use some power electronics. Instead, they decided to go ahead and use 9 AA batteries. The criticism with that 9 AA's, and I did put it in there and measure, so they're actually rocking all in a big series. This is a 12-volt flashlight. Oh, I should mention what I find odd is it appears that the screws are actually gold-plated or are brass screws. I never figured that out. The cost of a 10-pack or a 12-pack of AA's is a heck of a lot more than a 4-pack of D cells, like in this 500 lumen QFL 534 flashlight. This is the one I'm going to ultimately recommend, unless you like the idea of having a flashlight that's really better as a stick floodlight, but does have a zoom to give you a little bit more throw, to concentrate some light out further. But the problem is they sacrifice it. If we look here at the full brightness, we're only talking 3 hours, and about 10 hours at low brightness, 330 lumens. And that's on 9 AA batteries. This is 3D cells, and it puts out full brightness for 24 hours. And ultimately, if you're somebody who likes a beam, likes a flashlight that you can see further away, this one's going to do it for you, because it has an elliptically curved reflector, luminized reflector dish in there. The reason that these zoom flashlights don't do quite as well in the same situations, when you're zooming out, all of the light that's coming off of the sides of the LED just get bounced around this housing and don't make it out through the lens, so it actually reduces your output some. The second problem is, and it seems like these ATACs and many other manufacturers, is that the zoom actually just doesn't go far enough. And that's the other issue, is it's getting pretty focused, but it doesn't allow me to focus down to just a real sharp square. There's some other focusing flashlights with threaded collars, and they'll allow you to focus down till you're like perfectly, you could just see the actual image of the LED chip itself. And let me just show that real fast on the table. This is 1500 lumens. This is around 500 lumens, but since this is so much more concentrated, so much better of a reflector, we can actually see, well, we can't because of the dynamic range on this camera, but I can see with my eyes this white circle traveling across the dot produced by this 1500 lumen light. And so that's really going to be the best recommendation I can make. I can't speak today. The other issues is zoom flashlights, lots of grit gets in there. Also, its water resistance is far less because you have this thing sliding back and forth across a greased O-ring. Just doesn't bode well for sealing, where you have something like this where everything's just screwed together tight and you're not messing with any of the O-rings. Plus, kind of the solidity of a 3D cell light and just a fantastic life that you get out of it. Plus the cost of replacing batteries, and that's probably the biggest disappointment with this Quantum. 9 AA batteries, come on. And it's $25. So, and this is all in context. You can, for $25, you can get some just amazing flashlights. $30, you can just get thousands and thousands of lumens, lithium-ion ones. I am going to do a little outdoor test. Actually, let's go and cut to the outdoor test right now. Sorry about any wind noise. Here's a 1000 lumen ATAC, and it's not too bad. And then if we zoom the 1000 lumen ATAC out, we can see it. We'll zoom it back in. Let me get the right flashlight here. Keep on grabbing the wrong one. Here's the Harbor Freight Quantum 1500 lumen. It is a bit brighter, and if we zoom it out, we can see that it does throw better than the ATAC, but not by much. But it is brighter. Now let's go ahead and do another comparison with still running the 1500 lumen Quantum compared to the 500 lumen QFL 534. It just has the lens and it works so much better. Now watch this. This is a 1500 lumen light. I'm about to turn on one that's rated at 1/3 the brightness. You can see how much better it throws because we can see its dot over the top of this one just because the lens concentrates the light so much more. Even though this one right here may have a lot more lumens, the zoom function, the way the light gets trapped inside the barrel, just cuts a bunch of that off and doesn't focus at anything close to what an actual silvered lens can. So that's what they mean by throwing light, is just how much it's concentrated. And it's really surprising how a light with just a small fraction of the brightness, just like this one, can outshine and outthrow. But what we can see with the 1500 lumen is that we do have, and I make sure I'm on bright, I am, is that it has a bunch more coverage over that distance, where this is a smaller dot. But nonetheless, it just goes to prove that point. And to prove one more point here, let me get out a really bright light. Here we are once again. This is the Quantum 1500. Now I'm doing one of these Amazon $30 lithium ion 4x by 1650, 3 Cree LEDs. And there it is. So this would be this super bright lithium ion light, which is kind of a combination of both spot and flood. And then the full zoom of the Quantum. Really not too bad. The Quantum is doing a little bit better in this situation. Part of our issue here is with the auto exposure on my camera. So really this Quantum isn't too bad. It just seems they could have done a little better. Okay, so as you can see, and I'm glad I did that actual section of the video first, is this is pretty bright. It really is pretty bright. If you're using it as its floodlight, I like that a lot. As you can see with no flickering versus it being on low, that it's continuously running the LED. So I also like that aspect. So if you're doing anything where you're recording, you're not going to have to worry about the flickering. And as a floodlight, particularly if you've lost something and you're searching for it at night, that's where I think this is going to make the best bet, because the lens does give you that one nice undeniable effect, which is the fact that it evens out the light. As you can see, this whole circle has an even amount of light across the whole area. So those are kind of my thoughts. The build quality seems okay. This seems to be like this, either it's the bigger one or second generation of the ATAC, so the threads are a little bit or coarser on this cap. So they fit, or they just don't get jammed up and cruded up quite as easily. But what I think they could have done better is they should have just had some kind of a better floodlight that they came out with. And if they're going to come out with something with 1500 lumens, they should have made it just have a lens or something like this here. That way, you're really getting impressed by it. That way you're getting 1500 lumens and it's in a really nice lens body, so it really throws. You get a bunch of light way down, where this does pretty good, but it's just kind of a waste of a really bright LED unit in there. And I'll show real fast what I was talking about. When you have it zoomed out, it's just anodized black on the inside, so a bunch of the light just hitting against the black. And the fact that they just use a white card here, they don't even silver it, really is just a couple of disappointing aspects of this. Even though it is a bright, powerful LED, you can see, look at this big old heatsink body that they got that mounted into. It just a little bit of a waste, and I've never really been fond of zoom flashlights, and wish Harbor Freight would have just come out with like a 4D cell version of this, which would have been just sick. I mean, people bought a lot of those big mag lights, and they would buy 4D cell Quantums, especially if they were just ultimately bright, which it would have been if this flashlight had this element in it. Otherwise, for 25 bucks, kind of hard to recommend. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.